You need to come with us. We have questions about your immigration status.
What is this about?
All right, everyone, I need your attention. We need to move in an orderly fashion. Please follow our instructions.
The fluorescent lights hummed above the pharmacy counter at Save More Supermarket. February 23rd, 2:17 p.m. A woman in a white coat leaned across the counter, pointing to the label on an orange prescription bottle. "Mr. Hightower, you need to take this one with food. Not before. Not after. With. Your stomach won't forgive you otherwise." Clarence Hightower squinted at the bottle through his bifocals. 73 years old. Arthritic hands that had once gripped a rifle in Korea. He trusted this pharmacist more than he trusted his own doctor. "You always looking out for me, Dr. Yolanda?" "That's my job, Mr. Hightower. That's what I'm here for." Two men appeared at the edge of the counter. No uniforms, just tactical vests with 3 letters stamped across the chest. ICE. They moved like men who expected everyone to step aside. "Yolanda Ose Mensa?" She looked up. Her hands stopped moving. Something cold settled into her chest. "That's me. How can I help you?" "If you're new here, welcome to the channel. We share stories of courage, injustice, and the moments when ordinary people become heroes. If that's something you need in your life, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what happens next in this supermarket will change how you see everything." The taller agent stepped closer. His badge read, Buckley. His eyes held nothing resembling warmth. "You need to come with us. We have questions about your immigration status." Yolanda almost laughed. The sound caught in her throat and died there. "My immigration status? I'm a U.S. citizen, born in Lincoln Hospital, Bronx, New York. What is this about?" "Ma'am, we can do this the easy way or the hard way." Buckley's voice dropped. "Step from behind the counter." The pharmacy fell silent. Customers at the pickup window froze. A mother pulled her child closer to her hip. Someone's phone emerged from a pocket, camera already recording. Clarence Hightower's prescription bottle hit the counter with a sharp crack. He stepped forward. 73 years old. Knees that screamed every morning. A body that had earned its rest decades ago. But something older than pain moved through him now. Something that remembered what his uniform was supposed to mean. "You ain't taking her nowhere without a warrant." Buckley's jaw tightened. "Sir, step aside. This is federal business. Show me the warrant." "We don't need a warrant for—" "Then you don't need to be here." The words hung in the air like smoke. Buckley's partner, younger with hungry eyes, shifted his weight. His hand moved toward his belt. A shopping cart rattled to a stop behind them. Then another. Then another. Rosario Fuentes pushed through the gathering crowd. 34 years old. Mother of 3. Her youngest son was diabetic, and Yolanda had spent hours teaching her how to manage his insulin. She positioned herself beside Clarence without a word. "She's our pharmacist." Rosario's voice carried the accent of Guatemala and the steel of a woman who had crossed deserts to give her children something better. "She's not going anywhere." More bodies gathered. A stockboy abandoned his cart of soup cans. A cashier left her register mid-transaction. An elderly woman with a walker planted herself like a tree that refused to fall. 4 security cameras recorded every angle. These 17 cell phones captured every word. Somewhere in the crowd, someone pressed the button that started a Facebook live stream. The woman behind that counter wasn't what those agents had been told. She wasn't undocumented. She wasn't a criminal. She wasn't an easy pickup. She was Dr. Yolanda Ose Mensa, born 15 miles from Yankee Stadium. Raised in the Bronx by Ghanaian immigrants who worked 17-hour days so their daughter could wear a white coat. Educated at Rutgers and Temple. Licensed pharmacist for 15 years. She had helped every person in that crowd at some point. Translated prescriptions. Called about missed refills. Held hands during bad diagnoses. And 2 men with badges had just walked into her workplace to drag her away. No warrant, no court order, no verification. Just an anonymous tip and the assumption that nobody would stop them. In a notebook in Buckley's car, next to her name, he had written 8 words. African. Probably overstayed visa. Easy pickup. He was about to learn how wrong those words were. What would you do if armed agents tried to take your pharmacist without showing a single document? The grocery store on East Tremont Avenue opened at 6 in the morning and closed at 11 at night. 7 days a week. No holidays. No exceptions. Yolanda's parents owned that store for 23 years. Her father stocked shelves before sunrise. Her mother worked the register until her feet swelled so badly she had to soak them in salt water every night. They sold yams and plantains and palm oil to Ghanaian families who missed home, and bread and milk to everyone else who just needed to survive another day in the Bronx. They never took vacations, never bought new clothes when old ones still had wear, never complained about exhaustion or unfairness, or the customers who sometimes shouted slurs and threw change on the counter instead of placing it in their hands. Their only luxury was their daughter's future. In Ghana, we had nothing. Her mother said it every semester, pressing tuition money into the school secretary's hand. Here, you have everything. Don't waste it. Yolanda didn't waste a single hour. She did homework on milk crates in the back of the store while her parents worked. She read textbooks under the yellow light of a desk lamp her father found in someone's trash. She watched her mother count pennies to make rent and decided that she would never count pennies. She would count something else. Prescriptions, patients, lives saved. Bronx Science accepted her based on test scores that made the admissions counselor read them twice. She graduated with honors while working weekends at the grocery store, still stocking shelves, still learning what sacrifice looked like up close. Rutgers offered a full scholarship. She took the bus from the Bronx to New Jersey every day for 4 years, because dorming cost money her family didn't have. Temple University Pharmacy School came next. She specialized in community health because she remembered what it felt like when her mother couldn't afford medicine and simply went without. The job offers arrived like validation: hospital systems, corporate pharmacy chains, research positions that paid twice what she'd make in retail. She turned them all down. She chose a pharmacy counter inside a Save More supermarket in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Not glamorous, not prestigious. Her professors said she was wasting her potential. Her classmates said she was settling. They didn't understand. Yolanda had watched her parents serve a community for 23 years. She had seen what it meant when people knew your name, when they trusted you, when they came to you not because you were the cheapest option, but because you were the one who cared. She wanted that. She wanted to be the pharmacist who called elderly patients when they missed refills, who translated prescription instructions into Spanish for immigrant families too ashamed to ask for help, who talked teenagers out of selling their Adderall and helped single mothers fight with Medicaid on the phone. 15 years behind that counter. 15 years of knowing every regular customer's name. 15 years of being the person people came to when they didn't know where else to turn. She wasn't just filling prescriptions. She was holding a neighborhood together, one orange bottle at a time. Her parents had finally retired. They watched from their small apartment in Queens as their daughter built exactly what they had built, just in a different form. A place where people mattered, a place where nobody was invisible. On February 23rd, 2 men walked into that place and tried to make her invisible. They didn't ask questions. They didn't verify anything. They saw her name, saw her skin, and decided she didn't belong. Agent Wade Buckley had written 8 words in his notebook. African, probably overstayed visa, easy pickup. She was born in Lincoln Hospital. Her birth certificate was filed with the city of New York. Her parents had framed her citizenship documents and hung them in their living room next to her pharmacy degree. And 40 strangers in a supermarket were about to teach those agents what happens when you come for someone the community refuses to lose. How does it feel to spend your whole life serving others, only to have strangers decide you don't belong? Wade Buckley checked his reflection in the car window and liked what he saw. 22 years with immigration and customs enforcement. A face that made people look away. Hands that had signed more deportation orders than he could count. His colleagues called him the Collector, and he had earned that name one removal at a time. Some agents saw their job as law enforcement. Buckley saw it as hunting. The tip came in. The target was identified. The collection was made. Simple, clean, efficient. The bodies added up. The numbers looked good. Washington noticed. His partner sat in the passenger seat scrolling through his phone. Damon Schultz, 28 years old. Transfer from the southern border. He missed the action. Vermont and Pennsylvania were too quiet, too soft. Too many people asking questions instead of just complying. Buckley had taken Schultz under his wing because the kid reminded him of himself at that age. Hungry, eager, willing to cut corners when the rules got in the way. "You ready?" Buckley asked. Schultz pocketed his phone. Born ready. Let's grab this one and get lunch. The tip had come through that morning. Anonymous. Unverified. 6 words that made Buckley's pulse quicken. Illegal African woman working at pharmacy in Harrisburg. He didn't run a background check, didn't verify employment records, didn't request a warrant. Warrants meant paperwork. Paperwork meant delays. Delays meant someone might warn the target. Speed was everything. Surprise was everything. The look on their faces when they realized what was happening, that was the bonus. Buckley had a notebook in his car, leather-bound, filled with handwritten entries, target profiles, names and assumptions, the private thoughts of a man who believed he could spot illegals by instinct alone. Next to Yolanda Osei Mensah's name, he had written, African, probably overstayed visa. Easy pickup. He didn't know she was born in the Bronx. Didn't care to check. The name sounded foreign. That was enough. Internal records told a story Buckley never acknowledged. 61 administrative stops in 18 months. 57 involved Black or Latino individuals. His warrant compliance rate was 11%, the lowest in his division. His supervisors had flagged his aggressive interpretation of enforcement protocols in 3 separate memos. No corrective action was taken. The numbers were good. Washington was happy. That was all that mattered. The anonymous tip that sent him to Savemore that day was never investigated. If anyone had bothered to trace the source, they would have discovered a burner phone purchased with cash at a convenience store 30 miles away. No name, no verification, just 6 words, and the assumption that Buckley would do the rest. He always did. 61 times, Wade Buckley had walked into restaurants, workplaces, and parking lots expecting compliance. 61 times, people had stepped aside, looked away, let it happen. That was how this worked. Badges commanded obedience. Authority created silence. He had never encountered resistance. Not real resistance. Not the kind that stood its ground and demanded documentation and recorded everything on phones that would become evidence. Savemore Supermarket was supposed to be routine. Walk in, flash the badge, collect the target, walk out. 10 minutes. Maybe 15 if she cried or made a scene. Buckley parked in the fire lane because rules were for other people. He adjusted his tactical vest. Checked his reflection one more time. Let's go get her, he said. He had no idea that inside that supermarket, a 73-year-old Korean War veteran was waiting at the pharmacy counter, that a retired Baltimore cop was working the security desk, that 40 ordinary people with cell phones were about to become witnesses. The collector was walking into his last collection. After learning about Buckley's pattern, do you think he was a rogue agent or exactly what the system wanted him to be? Terrell Okonkwo heard the commotion from the security desk near the front entrance. Raised voices. The kind of tension that made the air feel heavy. 20 years with Baltimore Police Department had taught him to recognize trouble before it fully formed. He walked toward the pharmacy. 54 years old. Former cop. Retired because the weight of the badge had become heavier than his shoulders could carry. He took the Savemore job because it was supposed to be quiet. Peaceful. A way to stay useful without the cost. But old instincts never sleep. They just wait. He saw the crowd first. 40 people clustered around the pharmacy counter. Shopping carts abandoned. Groceries forgotten. Cell phones raised like weapons pointed at 2 men in tactical vests. Then he saw Clarence Hightower standing between those men and the pharmacist. 73 years old, knees that could barely hold him upright, refusing to move. Terrell understood everything in 3 seconds. He approached slowly, hand near his radio. Not his weapon. He didn't carry one anymore. Didn't need to. Authority wasn't about guns. It was about knowing when someone was wrong and being willing to say so. Gentlemen. His voice cut through the noise. Deep. Steady. The voice of a man who had stood in rooms far more dangerous than this one. I'm going to need to see identification and documentation authorizing this detainment. The taller agent flashed his badge. ICE. Federal authority supersedes local jurisdiction. Step aside. Federal authority requires due process. Terrell didn't blink. Do you have a warrant? We're conducting an administrative inquiry. That's a no. The words landed like a gavel. The crowd shifted. Phones adjusted angles. Someone whispered, he used to be a cop. and the information rippled through the gathered bodies. Terrell stepped closer, not aggressive, just present. The way he had learned to occupy space during 2 decades of defusing situations that could have gone wrong. This woman is a U.S. citizen. I've seen her driver's license when she cashed her paycheck. I've seen her pharmacy credentials hanging behind that counter. I've seen her voter registration card when we did the drive last November. He let each word land separately. You are not removing her from this premises without proper documentation. Agent Schultz shifted his weight. His hand hovered near his belt. Young, nervous, the kind of nervous that made bad decisions. Wade, his voice cracked. We should call this in. This is getting out of hand. Buckley's face reddened. 22 years of doing this. 22 years of people stepping aside, looking away, letting him work. He had never stood in a supermarket surrounded by cell phones and witnesses, and a retired cop who knew exactly what he was looking at. This woman matches a credible tip. An anonymous tip isn't a warrant. Terrell's voice stayed level. A hunch isn't probable cause, and a badge doesn't make you right. Rosario Fuentes stepped forward. Her voice carried the weight of every mile she had traveled to give her children something better than what she'd left behind. Dr. Yolanda saved my son's life. She taught me how to give him insulin when nobody else would take the time. You want to take her? She spread her arms wide. You go through all of us. The crowd pressed closer. Not threatening. Just there. A wall of bodies and phones and ordinary people who had decided that this was the hill they would stand on. Buckley looked at the faces surrounding him, looked at the cameras recording everything, looked at the retired cop who knew the law better than he did, looked at the old veteran who refused to sit down. He had miscalculated. Badly. This isn't over, he growled at Yolanda. His voice was meant to sound menacing. It came out desperate. You'll be hearing from us. Clarence Hightower didn't flinch. No, sir. You'll be hearing from her lawyer. That's what happens when you come for people without doing your homework. The agents retreated through the automatic doors. No target. No easy pickup. No idea that a notebook in Buckley's car was about to become the most damaging piece of evidence in a federal lawsuit. 12 minutes. That's how long the standoff lasted. 12 minutes of shaking hands and racing hearts. The 12 minutes of ordinary people choosing their neighbor over their safety. Yolanda stood behind the counter, hands gripping the edge to keep herself upright. Tears streamed down her face. Not from fear, from something bigger than fear. Thank you. Her voice broke. All of you. Thank you. Clarence Hightower reached across the counter and squeezed her hand. That's what neighbors do, Dr. Yolanda. That's what Americans do. The collector had made 61 collections without consequences. Number 62 just ended his career. If you were in that crowd, would you have stepped forward or stepped aside? The lawsuit hit federal court like a thunderclap. U.S. District Court, Middle District of Pennsylvania. 3 defendants named in bold type. Agent Wade Buckley, Agent Damon Schultz, and the Department of Homeland Security. Attorney Constance Adeyemi Clark took the case without hesitation. 40 years of civil rights law. 3 previous successful lawsuits against ICE. A reputation for taking fights everyone else called unwinnable and winning them anyway. They made a mistake, she told Yolanda during their first meeting. They wrote it down, and we're going to make them pay for every word. Discovery began 6 weeks later. What it uncovered made national news for a month. 61 administrative stops in 18 months. 57 targeting Black or Latino individuals. Warrant compliance rate, 11%. Internal memos flagging Buckley's tactics. Supervisors who noted concerns and did nothing. A system designed to look the other way. But the most devastating evidence didn't come from databases or personnel files. It came from the leather notebook in Wade Buckley's personal vehicle. Handwritten entries, target profiles, names and assumptions scrawled in blue ink. A private record of prejudice disguised as police work. Next to Yolanda's name, 8 words that would end his career. African, probably overstayed visa, easy pickup. The notebook was projected on a courtroom screen. The jury of 7 women and 5 men stared at those words. 9 white faces, 2 black faces, 1 Latino face, 12 Americans reading what an agent had written about a woman born 15 miles from where they sat. Clarence Hightower testified first. His voice cracked when he described the moment he stepped between Yolanda and the agents. "I fought in Korea so people could be free in their own country. And I wasn't about to watch freedom get taken away in a grocery store." Rosario Fuentes testified next. She brought a photograph of her son. "Dr. Yolanda taught me how to keep him alive. She never charged me extra, never made me feel ashamed for not understanding. And those men wanted to take her like she was nothing." Terrell Okonkwo testified for 45 minutes. He explained procedure. He explained probable cause. He explained what a lawful detainment looked like versus what had happened that day. The defense attorney couldn't land a single blow. Then Yolanda took the stand. The defense lawyer tried to minimize the damage. "Dr. Osei Mensah, isn't it true you were only detained for approximately 12 minutes? Isn't this lawsuit an overreaction to a brief inconvenience?" She removed her glasses, folded them carefully. When she spoke, and her voice was steady but heavy with something the jury recognized immediately. 12 minutes. You're right. 12 minutes of being told I don't belong in my own country. 12 minutes of being treated like a criminal in front of my patients. People who trust me with their lives watched two men try to drag me away like cargo." She leaned forward. "My 8-year-old daughter asked me last week if ICE is going to take Mommy away. She was born here. Her grandmother was born here. Third-generation American. And she's terrified because of what those men did." Her eyes found the jury. "So no, counselor. This isn't about 12 minutes. This is about every black and brown American who has been made to feel like a guest in their own home. 12 minutes can break something inside you that takes years to repair. If it ever heals at all." The jury deliberated for 6 hours. $13.7 million, $5.2 million in compensatory damages, $6.5 million in punitive damages, $2 million to establish a community legal defense fund for citizens facing unlawful detainment. Agent Wade Buckley was terminated. His pension was stripped. The notebook that was supposed to stay hidden became Exhibit 23A in federal court records. Agent Damon Schultz was suspended and reassigned to desk duty pending further review. His hunting days were over. The Department of Homeland Security issued a formal apology, the first of its kind in a wrongful citizen detainment case. 3 weeks after the verdict, Yolanda walked back into Save More. The automatic doors slid open, and the entire staff started clapping. Customers she had never met shook her hand. Clarence Hightower waited at the pharmacy window with a bouquet of flowers from the grocery section. "Told you," he said, grinning wide. "They wasn't taking you nowhere." Terrell Okonkwo was offered a promotion to Regional Security Director. He turned it down. Said he preferred staying at Save More, where the real heroes shop. Rosario Fuentes enrolled in community college that fall. Pre-law. She wants to become an immigration attorney. And every year, on February 23rd, the Save More on Derry Street holds a Community Appreciation Day. Free blood pressure screenings, medication consultations, voter registration drives. They call it Yolanda Day. She always cries, and she always shows up. A badge doesn't make you right. A warrant doesn't make you moral. And silence is how tyranny wins. 40 strangers in a supermarket decided that protecting one woman was more important than protecting themselves. They didn't have law degrees. They didn't have political power. They didn't have federal authority. They had courage. And that was enough. Wade Buckley called her an easy pickup. He was looking at a woman her community would never let go. Every year on February 23rd, Dr. Yolanda Osei Mensah walks back into that supermarket. They cheer. She cries. And then she does what she has always done. She takes her place behind the counter and asks the same question she has asked for 15 years. "How can I help you today?" That's not a settlement. That's not a verdict. That's legacy. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another video. We share stories like this every single week. Stories of courage, stories of justice, stories of ordinary people who refused to look away when it mattered most. Drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed a moment when strangers became family? Share your story. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you know someone who needs this message, share this video. Send it to your group chats. Post it on your timeline. Justice doesn't spread itself. People do. Until next time, stand with your neighbors, protect your community, and never forget that the version of America worth fighting for is built by people like you.